creation. So it is, so let it be. Imagine God above us, and in everything we see, in the eyes of those who love us, and in those who disagree. Imagine higher power, you can find it all around, in the fragrance of a flower, in a feeling for a sound. There is no separation, we connect in harmony with one singular creation. So it is, so let it be. But it's time for reparation, time to set our spirits free. And if there's no separation, then I think I'll start with me. Now I understand the answer, understand what it's about. Life's a dance and I'm a dancer, here to sing and laugh and shout. There is no separation, we connect in harmony with one singular creation. So it is, so let it be. So it is, so let it be. Hello, everybody. This is Reverend Jerry Hobby, and I am so happy to be with you this morning. It is Sunday morning, and we get an opportunity to come together on all of our platforms, our social media platform, those that are on our mail list, our Purple Heart consciousness holders. We're honoring everyone. Actually, we're honoring everyone from every walk of life, because we truly believe in a world that works for everyone. And we know that that world that works for everyone includes you. So I'm happy to be with you today. Today is a wonderful day because we get to anchor in and move into the week. And so I have some members of our leadership team with us this morning, and two of them. First, we have our wonderful honorary member of our leadership team, Miss Patty Walton. Patty, would you like to unmute yourself and share something with the group? And do you have something special you want to share with us, a thought as we begin today?
Okay. The passion for setting people right is itself a dis-ease with the self. And an affirmation to support that is, I'm okay, you're okay, now let's get to work.
Love it. And did you pull that from one of your favorite books?
Yes.
Which book is that?
Acts of Faith.
Acts of Faith. You know what? It's so right on today. It's so appropriate. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think about faith without works, they're dead. So wonderful. And then we have our wonderful social media guru. I'm going to call her the guru, our wonderful Catherine Redmond.
Good morning, Reverend Jerry and Patty. So good to get to join you on this beautiful Sunday morning. And hello, everybody out there who's getting to see this and hear this morning. I would like to share with you a reading from Ernest Holmes 365. It says, "The law of God is written in my heart. I know that the perfect life of the Spirit in my life, and I now permit it to radiate through my world of thought and action. I express in my physical form. As I relax my body consciously and definitely, which I am able to do by mentally relaxing and dropping all strain, I feel flowing through me a vital energy, a dynamic force, a great surge of living power. I feel immersed into and saturated by an vital essence of perfection, which brings me into in tune with life. Because my whole being is this perfect God life, I have nothing to fear. Every person I meet recognizes the love and peace and wisdom and courage within me. Each person I meet feels our common bond. I know that we are part of the perfect whole harmonious centers of the great unity of life, and so has faith in me. No one could wish no one could wish to harm or hurt me in any way. I too can know that only love and understanding for my fellow beings. I know because I am God-like. God is expression that every circumstance I find myself is right for me. Through my consciousness of love, which is the very essence of God life, I transform my seeming imperfections into perfect idea of my true self. God knows me only as a perfect idea, and that perfection I now manifest. God's law is written in my heart, and I delight to do God's will."
Thank you, Kathy. How wonderful. What a wonderful reading, and so appropriate for today. I'm always amazed at how wonderful things have a way of working itself out. And when I say working itself out, we come together, and I never tell them what the theme is. I just am that type of person that wants to be in the moment and allow things to organically harvest themselves. And that is so appropriate. And in our beginning, we did start off with a song by Al Yankee, "There Is No Separation." And this is a wonderful example of it, what we have heard so far. It is all about getting ourselves together and moving forward. And I'm talking about what's happening right now because we value spiritual practice. And we also know there is a practical application of spiritual practice. Here's another quote from Ernest Holmes. He says, "Work without vision is drudgery, but vision without work is self-deception. The well-balanced person can walk with his head in the cloud and still keep his feet solidly planted on the ground. Faith and work are ineffective when separated." Michael Beckwith, who was a wonderful visionary, says, "When you truly have an insight or spiritual awakening, the next step is always action." And today, what we're focusing on and we're gearing up for is our movement back to the spiritual practice of visioning. Maybe perhaps we can call this part of our pilgrimage, going back to basics, the things that work for us. So I like to think of our time today as a time where we are in the middle of this wonderful renaissance. That's the reason you see that picture in the background here. This was inspired by our wonderful Michelangelo and also Leonardo da Vinci. And it, for me, represents that divine spark. And that divine spark is that which lives within each and every one of us. And what that does is it takes me back to Renaissance that took place back during the Middle Ages. Out of that Renaissance, so much wisdom has come forward, and that wisdom is still with us today. We took that which was true. You've heard the saying, don't throw the baby out with the wash. That is what has happened. It also takes me back to a time of our transcendental movement. And that was a powerful time with Emerson and Thoreau and so many others. As a result of that, there was an evolution that took place in terms of our New Thought movement, and it was a blessing. It also takes me to many, many times. And the time that is really sticking out for me right now is our Harlem Renaissance. And for us here in the United States, it was a significant period. And what it represented was the same principle taking place. And when we look at history, the history of things is that history that is shared with us. And when you look it up, they talk about the Renaissance of the Middle Age. But in that Renaissance of the Middle Age, it was focused, and there was more of the picture. I want you to hear this, a picture of a certain group of people. And then we move forward to the Transcendentalist movement. There's so much that is so powerful. I received a recommendation of a book about Emerson, and I'm really looking forward to it. And it's about his position regarding slavery. And I know that one of our colleagues who's currently teaching about our New Thought movement and its history is utilizing that book as a special feature. And whenever she teaches that class, she goes back to that point there. My point is, we're all the same. We're all part of this thing we call humanity. And what I love most about our teachings is that it represents inclusivity. And so in our process of moving forward, we're in the process of updating. I'm going to say it that way. We're updating because we learn. And as a colleague of mine used to say, when we know better, we do better. We get an opportunity to do better and to move forward. So I am celebrating with everyone from every walk of life that is acknowledging our oneness, that we are all a part of the one. And as we continue to move forward in that vein, I want you to remember the power of your inner actions, because things are always created twice. It's created in consciousness, and it is also fulfilling itself outwardly. So I'm inviting you this week to remember the power of spiritual practice. And as you remember the power of spiritual practice, I want you to remember that that power starts within you, okay? And I know that many of you might be hopping from place to place in terms of hearing many messages today. The thing that I want to impress upon you is we have a lot of people that have come from many different walks of life. And I know that many of you are hearing about Bayard Rustin, a very powerful person, and was very active and the organizer of the March on Washington in 1963. He had the ear of Martin Luther King, who was a Baptist minister. And later on in life, he became a activist for the LGBT community. And I know that many of you are honoring our Gay Pride Week, Juneteenth, all of it integrating together. And this is a perfect example of remembering there's no separation. He said this, and I want you to remember this. The real radical is that person who has a vision of equality and is willing to do those things that will bring reality closer to that vision. But I want you to remember, first you must begin with the vision, allow for the clarity of the vision, and then you move forward as a result of that. And that clarity is not something that we make happen. It is something we allow to happen. That's the reason I say there is value in spiritual practice, and that this particular ministry is grounded in that. And our specialty is supporting you in understanding that. And I want you to keep that in mind, because in a few weeks, we'll begin our visioning series for the summer, and you probably will want to be a part of that. And with that in mind, the most important thing that we must remember is the power of love. Now, the thing I love about all of these different people and things we have talked about was the centerpiece. And the centerpiece for Martin Luther King during his time period was a man by the name of Howard Thurman. And I know a lot of people credit Bayard Rustin for being the ear and the person that introduced him to the essence of nonviolence. But there's always a back to a back. And I want you to know about the back to the back. You need to know the whole story. There was also another man involved. And it was Dr. King's mentor. And that mentor was Howard Thurman. And it was actually Howard Thurman who had had an audience years before with a man by the name of Gandhi. And it was Gandhi's capturing towards the end of his life the essence of where his work would go and who would catch the essence of that vision. And he was the one that prophesied, I'm going to call it prophesied, that it would catch like fire here within the United States. And so now here we are. It has not just caught as fire here in the United States, it's caught all over the world. But the grounding part of Thurman is his spiritual life. And his grounding was the grounding that Dr. King leaned into. And I'm going to say that all the people of the era had an intimate encounter with God, whether it was God as nature, whether it was just knowing deep within the essence of yourself, whether it was the scientific part, because what I'm feeling and sensing right now is that the essence of spirit is unifying itself in a greater and a more profound way. I'm going to invite you to keep your eyes awake, keep your heart open, and allow your heart to influence every part of your beingness, your physical being, your mental being, and your emotional being. So I'm going to share this in closing, and it is Howard Thurman, More Loving in My Heart. He says, I want to be more loving in my heart. I want to be more loving. Often there are good and sufficient reasons for exercising what seems a clear, direct resentment. Again and again, I find it hard to hold in check the sharp retort, the biting comeback, when it seems that someone has done violence to my self-respect and decent regard. How natural it seems to give as good as I get, to take nothing, lying down, to announce to all, and sundry in 1,000 ways, that no one can run over me and get away with it. All this is part of the thicket in which my heart gets caught again and again. But deep within me, I want to be more loving in my heart, to glow with a warmth that will take the chill off a room which I share with those who live and touch mine in the traffics of my goings and coming. I want to be more loving. I want to be more loving in my heart. It is often easy to have the idea in mind, to plan to be more loving, to see it with the mind and give assent to the thought of being loving. This is crystal clear. But I want to be more loving in my heart. I must feel like loving. I must ease the tension in the heart that injects the sharp barb, the stinging words. I want to be more loving in my heart. That with unconscious awareness and deliberate intent, I shall be kind, a gracious human being. Thus, those who walk the path with me may find it easier to be loving, to be gracious, because of the love of God, which is increasingly expressed in my living. I want to be more loving. And so with that in mind right now, I'm just going to invite you to just move into the heart space. And I'm going to invite you to consciously slow your breathing down and just imagine that breath circulating within your heart space. I like to call it the heart breath. And as you move into that place right now, I want you to just allow the energy, the vibration of love to expand itself right where you are. And I'm inviting you to allow that feeling to regenerate itself right now, within you and through you and as you. And as you're allowing that energy of love to fulfill itself, I'm just feeling and sensing the energy of love, and I'm feeling the energy of all of our wonderful activists from every walk of life. And what I know is love is most definitely the answer. And so as we move into our own personal renaissance, and I'm going to call it a world renaissance right now, a rebirthing, creating a space where a world works for everyone, where every life is important, acknowledging all the inequities of the past, and creating space right now at the table for all. And in this very moment, right here, right now, I speak my word, knowing that there is balance, there is harmony, that the essence of spirit is everywhere present, that the presence of divine love is the action and the activity fulfilling itself and enriching itself. And that every single person that is hearing this prayer knows and beholds the truth and know that they are included in this divine awareness. That the essence of spirit is alive, dwelling, and expressing itself right now. And in this very awareness, in this divine rally, in this activist movement of this sacred prayer, What I simply know is God is truly all there is. And it is God, that divine light, expanding itself, revealing itself, and expressing itself. And I know that it is this divine anchoring that fulfills itself and has already gone before and prepared the way. And what I'm knowing too is that the inner heart of the divine knows and beholds itself and acknowledges its beauty, its uniqueness. And it is in this space right here, right now. I know that we have our being. We move into a space of unconditional love. And in this space of unconditional love, I know that spirit fulfills itself as the wonder of life, as the wonder of love, and it is this loving presence that expands itself. And so in this very moment, I'm acknowledging the sacred empowerment of the divine, awakened within everyone that is hearing this prayer. And I know that there is a divine blessing. And that divine blessing is spirit in action, moving and fulfilling itself as love, moving and fulfilling itself and demonstrating itself as that wonderful presence that blesses everyone we come into contact with, regardless of our walk of life, regardless of the hues of the colors of the rainbow that we are, regardless of our personal preference or the way we have been born and express ourselves. I'm knowing the energy and the vibration of God as love. And it is this loving presence that is active, fulfilling itself, and I know that it has burst and broken many paradigms. I know that the paradigm of anything that is unlike God has been removed, and only the highest and greatest good is expanding itself right now. So I know that everyone steps into their true heritage of who they are. I know that the divine expression of spirit fulfills itself. And I know that that radiance is alive right now. And I know that it has personalized itself, and that the good of God, the benefits of God, expands itself in a natural way. I know that our leadership is awake to this truth, is a walking example of this truth. And I know that those that vote, those that are part of this whole process of life, that shows up in this process of life and humanity all over the world, are standing in this truth. They are locked in this truth of the only thing that really matters and exists is perfect love in action. And so what I know is this divine blessing is the quiet stirring. I know that there is a peace that passeth all understanding, and that every single decision is a decision where the divine interjects itself, where the divine expresses itself. And I know that which has been given to each individual, it expresses itself right now. So for those that are seeking the essence of wholeness in terms of their body and the healing presence in their body, I know that the divine is there, that our doctors, our scientists are all anchored in this truth and beholding this truth as the healing presence for all of humanity. I know that that same energetic is the divine presence fulfilling itself, and knowing that that privilege of health and the privilege of healthcare is an energy and a vibration afforded for all of the universe, every single person. What I'm knowing is in this very moment, right here, right now, that emotionally and mentally, the energy and the vibration of love extends itself, fulfills itself, it engenders itself, and it expands itself within our hearts and within our minds. What I know is that that wonderful presence of abundance and prosperity fulfills itself as perfect good for everyone concerned. That the universe orchestrates and expands itself and fulfills itself. It reveals itself. And I know that that divine consciousness is a consciousness that is known at every point in every reference. That it is that consciousness of God as good, reciprocating itself and expressing itself right now. And everything that is necessary for that truth to expand itself fulfills itself at all levels. For those that have stood and articulated that truth, that are celebrating this truth, that are awakening and educating the world of this truth, and those that are in that space of empowerment, that the essence of the divine whispers and fulfills itself, moving everyone forward. I'm knowing that there is a quiet stirring, and that stirring is spirit in action. And what I'm knowing is that stirring and that healing presence is the wonder of life. It is the divine presence of that mystical journey where love engages itself, where love expands itself, reveals itself, and expresses itself. So I'm so grateful this morning to behold the consciousness of God in action, God expanding, God, the divine presence that uplifts itself. And what I know is we're all blessed beyond that which we cannot even imagine. That a new cause and a new way of living is already set in motion. And that in this very space right now, we're able to live a life of true love, true peace, true harmony, of true good, and that goodness of the divine fulfilled and expressing right now. And I know that each individual with their open heart in that loving presence, they dwell in that place, and they dwell in that place for all of eternity. So I'm just releasing my word right now into the action of universal law, knowing that something divine has already fulfilled itself, and that wonderful presence, the wonderful lover of law, in its divine relationship with love, simply says yes, yes, yes. And it is in this space here that we release this, and we join in the sacred yes, and we say, and so it is. Amen.
And so it is.
So it
Yes.
is.
Thank you, thank you, thank you all for being here. Thank you. And thank you for this wonderful opportunity to pray. And what I know too is during this time period, it is a time where we all get to just be aware of the murkiness of stuff that's showing up. Sometimes we may feel a little down, but I want you to remember too that we have special uplifts here in this ministry. And that includes our Purple Heart app. Please go and download it. And it also includes our power groups. Go to seedfm.org. Make sure you are aware of what's going on, and please join us. I'm going to also invite you to pay attention. We're going to be sending information out about our visioning that is going to be taking place over the summer. I'd love for you to be a part of it. I think that it's going to support you and ground you as we get prepared to move forward. There are a lot of things that happened back during these various Renaissance, namely 100 years ago during the Harlem Renaissance. It was a powerful virgining time. And what followed was this thing we call depression. That depression was that time where a lot of craziness that was buried beneath the surface, it came to the surface and it created a lot of havoc. That's the reason we say that there's a connection to what we do spiritually, because it supports us in navigating as we move forward. I'm going to invite you to join us, and let's do our work so that we can create and continue to create that space for everyone to experience a world that works for everyone. I love you all. Have a blessed week. Namaste.
Namaste.